Welcome back to another episode in our Sacramento City Miners Relocation Fantasy Draft Franchise. It's going to be the stats and awards for what appears to be the final season of this franchise. I know, sad, we're all sad, but you know what? We still have the playoffs, and we still have a chance to be special. We had a crazy good season. Only loss we had was the first game we had with Stafford coming in, and obviously getting used to him, different style, the throw power, and the throw motion, and obviously a bunch of missed field goals in general. They were long field goals, so it's not like he just missed them out of nowhere, but still, long field goals that were missed, and because of that, we lost the only game of the season. But let's take a look at the stats and awards of the league, and then we'll look at the team. I think, what do we normally do? Let's look at the team first, actually. Stafford, like I said, did have to come in decent bit. 11 touchdowns, had the exact same picks as Fisher, despite the fact that he had 33 less touchdowns and like 4,300 less yards, finishing the season with most likely the highest pass rating in the league, a long of 76, with 10.1 yards per attempt. Would love to see what the rest of the league looks like there. 21 sacks on him, which is actually not bad, but then another 4 for Stafford, so 25, which isn't terrible. Tony House had 2 fumbles on the season. Both came from the game he returned back to action, so seemingly fluky. Evans' backup numbers, not bad. 543 yards with 5 yards per carry with 3 touchdowns. House, considering all the short yardage we get and the short yardage situation where he just powers forward, pretty impressive that he has a higher yards per carry still than Evans. And Evans had all those inside zone runs, too, that he got to run. Of course, Kennedy, really good season, but debatably Jackson almost better than him with those touchdowns. But yards per reception, 16.9 for Kennedy, kind of debunks that a little bit, if you will. Cody, though, 1,000 yards with 10 touchdowns done, even though he missed a significant amount of games. 705 with 6 touchdowns. Could have been and probably would have been 4 1,000-yard receivers, maybe even 4 1,000-yard and double-digit touchdown receivers. Looking at the offensive line, Broderick Jones allowing 7. I don't know how much he was allowing before he came here, but overall pretty good, pretty improved, I suppose. Looking at the defense, John Franklin Myers after that season, the game ended up becoming the number 1 sacker on the team with 11. Thorne at 10.5, Benito with 9, Tyndall at 6, Dean with 5.5, 4.5 for Morris, 4.5 for Sam Williams. So a lot of group effort stuff here. 6 sacks for 11.5 for the 2 inside linebackers, if you will. Zion McCollum with 15 interceptions, broke the NFL record, got back to his normal self, and was locked down. Bishop was pretty good, Cross was really good, and then McKenzie was awful all season long. And then looking at kicking, Kazu had a lot of misses from deep. In general, he missed one that was under 29, and then it was just all deep kicks that he missed. 4 out of his 8 hits from 50 plus, which is tough. Evans, pretty good punting game. Wangu, pretty good kick return. Nothing on the punt return. Behinds was pretty decent still. Just didn't get a touchdown, sadly. Looking at the numbers, though, Joe Burrow, the number 1 in yards with 58-28. That's got to be an NFL record unless he broke it already or somebody broke it beforehand. But looking at the yards, the touchdowns to pick ratio, I would say that Fisher was easily better. The problem is Fisher's yards were so much lower than everyone else's. But you look at the touchdowns, he was the 5th highest touchdown guy with so many less passing attempts. And as far as the lowest interceptions go, of the kind of qualified starters, I would imagine he was the lowest. No, it was actually Trey Lance, but then Fisher. But obviously, looking at the yard difference, I suppose it's crazy that they had the exact same pass attempts, but Fisher looked so much better. And then obviously we talk about that passer rating. Fisher even up there with some of the guys that shouldn't even count because they had a couple of snaps and that was it. Crazy numbers. Obviously, Mac Jones good as well, but Fisher should be MVP, and I just don't think they're going to give it to him. Longest throw of the season goes to Meredith, who has the big arm. Most sacks allowed was the Steelers to Wentz at 55. Was Fisher the lowest sacks? Of the starters, it was actually Lamar, then Bryce Young, then Fisher. What about the yards per attempt? Number 1 by a good margin for qualified players. Looking at running backs, Joe Mixon was insane. I mean, Tony House he's up there, but maybe top 20 barely. Touchdowns, like I said, top 20 barely. What about yards per carry? Definitely nowhere near the top 20, probably. 5.8 was the best. Yeah, actually a little bit higher with that, so fair enough. Most fumbles goes to Mitchell. Most broken tackles goes to Najee at 82. What about House? 52, which is okay. Most yards after contact, House is the third best. Longest run goes to Walker at 93 yards. We look at the average yards per game now with Mixon at 108.1, but House also up there with 89.3. He just didn't play as many games, obviously, because of injury. Yards, Kennedy at number 4, and Jackson not too far behind. Most catches went to T. Higgins with 128. Yards per catch of the qualified players, probably Osborne and then Kennedy. Most touchdowns, Travis Jackson was the third highest, and then Kennedy was up there as well. Average yards per game goes to DJ Moore. He just killed it. DJ Moore had a really good season. Run after the catch, we're nowhere near that list. Run after the catch average, nowhere near the list. Longest of the season goes to Michael Thomas for 94. That's a shocker. Blocking, who gave up the most sacks? It was Abraham Lucas with 18 of them. Look at the Steelers. Holy crap. Bakhtiari and DeJuan Jones with 36 sacks allowed at the tackle spot. No wonder why he had the most sacks allowed. And he still had a really good season, which is impressive. Dre Greenlaw with 160 tackles. Some pretty good tackles. Nakobe Dean up there, especially with the tackles for loss. 23. Might even be, well, not Defensive Player of the Year because McCollum probably has that, but most tackles for a loss in the league. 19 sacks with the sack leader. And then looking at interceptions, number 7 with McCollum at 15. You can see why he's going to win that award. What about fumbles forced? Fumbles forced 3 for Bradley Chubb. Jack Campbell at 3. What about touchdowns? We had to have that, right? 2 for Nakobe Dean was the lead. I would assume McCollum had like 6 to 8. Kazu had the most kicks, but as far as pure accuracy goes, definitely not Kazu. So no forcing of the dev this time. Most yards per punt goes to Bojorquez, and Evans is up there, though, top 6, which is not super common in a user league, or using, the players. Lamar Boykin with 2 touchdowns, actually a couple of kick return touchdowns on the season, and then Hardman cooking up with 2 punt return touchdowns. That's pretty impressive. But I kind of wanted to see real quick the touchdowns that McCollum did actually have, because, like I said, it had to be up there. Probably led more. There's probably teams that as a whole. Oh, only 4, really? Okay, I was about to say. But Bishop also had 4, which is impressive. I was about to say, those 2 guys can combine maybe more than most NFL teams as a whole. Number 1 in offense was us. Not by much, though. Not the number 1 in yards for passing. 3rd. And then rushing, we were like 6th, 7th maybe. Passing touchdowns, number 1 with 55. And then rushing touchdowns, definitely a bit lower than that. First downs, 420 by a huge margin. We were points per game, 42.5 with the Packers. The second highest at 36.2, which is kind of insane. Total yards allowed, we were the second best defense in the league as a whole, but as far as pass defense goes, the yards weren't great, but defense rushing-wise, only 1,200 allowed. Lowest amount of points allowed, but not by much. The most sacks by only 1 over the Bills. Most fumbles forced, 3rd. And then interceptions, 13 higher than anyone else. It doesn't show defensive touchdowns, does it? Or maybe it does for, what is it called? Defensive? So, D interceptions. It doesn't show touchdowns, though, does it? Just giveaways and all that stuff. Which, I guess fair enough. We had the least amount of penalties by a pretty wide margin. Holy. That is busted. All right, that's touchdowns allowed. Nah, that's still not going to be what I want. But yeah, let's take a look at the awards. First weekly award, Fisher winning 3 straight. I don't know how he won that one. A lot of touchdowns, but that completion percentage of yards are really low. But 3 straight players of the week, which is nice for upgrades. MVP, who is it? Joe Burrow. Fisher jumps to 6, but Joe Burrow, I get he has the yards, but really, I wouldn't personally consider him MVP. I would definitely have Fisher there, especially since he missed so many weeks. Ortega, the coach of the year. He does cook up. DJ Moore was the offensive player of the year over Kennedy at 3, Jackson at 4. Defensive player of the year goes to McCollum, which is not surprising. Surprisingly, though, Dean at 6, Tyndall at 9. Travis Jackson, the rookie of the year, doesn't surprise us. He had literally more touchdowns than a lot of rookie QBs would, and he's a receiver. Thorne held on barely, I would imagine, to defensive rookie of the year, which is nice because he's now a superstar. But he has to wait till the Super Bowl, obviously. Fisher with 16 and 1 as his record gets himself the best quarterback award, which is awesome. Still don't know how Burrow is MVP, but he's not the best quarterback, so clearly something's wrong. Running back, not going to be in the list. Touchdowns are low. Yards weren't great. Receivers 3 for Travis Jackson, 4 for Kennedy. O-line number 2, 3, 4, 5. But of those guys, only really 2 of them would qualify, in my opinion. So if he would have won, I would have taken the dev away. Not that it really matters because those guys don't start. But John Franklin Myers, 4 for best D-line. No one else on the list, surprisingly. Linebacker at 5 and 6. DB at number 1, 3, and 9. And then kicker at number 8, which is not really surprising. Did we get any, XP or anything like that? No. Let's do our weekly strategy, I suppose. Just to, well, speaking of that XP, try to get some. Definitely would help quite a bit. And then we'll go to the next game and see who we're, I don't know if I would say facing, but I was going to go in and maybe do the weekly strategy, get some upgrades, but I don't know about that. Maybe we should anyways. But the Raiders at 9 and 8, they're low overall, but they are they're high overall. They're just a low win total team. Interesting. Let's see who won and who lost. Patriots still in it. The Patriots are in it. They beat the Jaguars, and they have to face off against the Bills, who beat the Steelers. And the Raiders put up the most points in that round across the whole league, beating the Barons by 6, which now has us facing them, and then winner faces the division. So it could be a Division 1 again to decide who wins. Could it be the Bills again? Could we get the revenge? I don't know. But let's take a look if we had any upgrades. I didn't actually get to see. It seemed like we would have had a few. And Nick Benito seems to be the only guy. Obviously, finesse, speed rush. It's his biggest issue. It's a biggest issue from all the pass rushers. Only one finesse gets him to 84 plus 2, which is Kind of do want to quickly strategize just so I can get those upgrades in, but I think we're going to hold them off for now. Let's actually take a quick look at those games a little bit closer just to see what we have to strategize against. The Raiders winning by 6. Like I said, a lot of points there. C.J. Stroud, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 467. Pretty sure C.J. Stroud did pretty well against us, but he just threw too many interceptions. So if he holds on to, the ball and doesn't throw those interceptions, who knows? David Njoku killing it for the Barons. Myers, I think, was a problem last time for us. Devontae was actually quite locked, if I'm not mistaken. But this is a team that doesn't really look super spectacular, but they were able to put up a spectacular game. That's really all that matters. But this was definitely not the worst poll we could have had. I don't really think the Patriots are the worst poll either, but if somehow, some way it would have been the Bills, that would have been a major problem, even though they didn't really seem to do that well. But see how many blocks, how many sacks allowed. I mean, they love to give those sacks. They do not like their quarterback for some reason, even though he had a really good year. But anyways, that is going to be it. A little bit of a shorter one, but that's because it's the stats and awards, showing that and making it standalone so we can know what we're cooking up if we actually make the Super Bowl and we have some dev-ups. Fisher's definitely going to get one. Thorne's going to get one. And could be some really clutch dev-ups if we get to that status without losing, obviously. This would be a really sad one to lose, as I think we have easily another championship run on us. If we can at least see the Super Bowl, that'd be amazing. But the way we've been playing, as long as we don't have any injuries in the game, I like our chances, and hopefully you do as well, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the series up to this point, and hopefully you're excited for the playoffs, which will finish this Madden season's franchises. Anyways, if you enjoyed, maybe leave a like, subscribe if you're new. If you're not new, really appreciate your continued support on the channel as we're heading into the Madden 24 season soon enough. And yeah, maybe follow me on Twitter, Jeromepkr, second channel, PK Plays, for non-Madden content, and that's about it. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys come back for next video. But until next video,